This is the Lulich Corner. I'm Jordan Lulich with Lulich and Attorneys, and today we've got the opportunity to sit down with Bo Forbes from Ironside Marketing. Now, Bo is an expert in marketing, and Bo and I have had the pleasure to work with each other over the past few years. And I think, Bo, it's thank you for coming on, first off.
Absolutely.
I
Thank
appreciate
you,
you taking your time and coming over here and sitting down in our podcast corner. And I'm really excited to sit down with you because we work with a lot of business owners, we work with a lot of real estate agents, and so I think the conversation that we're going to have today is going to be relevant for all of those types of people that are listening in today. And I really want to just start with the basics, right? When people talk about building a brand, what is building a brand? I mean, is that something you can do overnight? Does it start with a logo?
Yeah, I think, yes, there's a lot of components to it, but a brand in its most simplest definition is a perception of the products, service, experience, quality that your target audience can have about your particular company. That includes awareness, competitive differentiation. It includes service delivery expectations. It's as much emotional as it is a physical understanding of a particular company's value promise in the marketplace. Mm-hmm. It certainly includes things such as logo marks and service offerings. But those are just a component. Ultimately, it's a more comprehensive, holistic look at where that particular company's existence in your target market's mind is.
Okay. So let's say I'm a real estate agent. How do I start to grow my personal brand? Like how do I do branding, right? Because I mean that sounds really good what you're saying, but what are the nuts and bolts of it to take to create that warm and fuzzy feelings about your specific service and your team and that you're trying to get across to consumers?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the great dilemmas, right? Because there are quite literally thousands of real estate agents, right? And how do you separate yourself from those thousands that are out there, right? And the biggest thing that we recommend to people is, number one is don't try to build a brand that isn't authentic to you, right? It has to be authentic to you. If you're a shark, build a brand that's about being a shark. If you're compassionate, build a brand that's about being compassionate. A persona about building what it is that you naturally do better than anybody else. Mm-hmm. But more importantly, and I think this is the thing to keep in mind, is branding is something that locks into market messaging and marketing, right? Because when we think of branding, we're thinking of how do we define the ethos of a particular person or a brand. When we think of marketing, is how do we get this information to the right people?
How do we distribute the message?
That? In real estate's one of the most interesting businesses out there. And you just kind of open it up, and I thought I might just kind of riff on this for a second. Ultimately, the vast majority of your opportunities as a realtor are going to come from people that already know you and like you, or people that know of your reputation and are motivated to engage with you because of that reputation.
Because there's a 3-step process, right? First you have to know the person, then you have to like the person, and then they have to actually trust you.
So it's
right. So you're saying like you have to go through that 3-step process, or there's this like reputational like component that you're talking about.
Well, it's very interesting because it's all very intertwined, right? So ultimately, the challenge being is your opportunities will come from these people that somehow have a either direct or referential relationship with you. Mm-hmm. But the thing is that pipeline of opportunities, engagements can actually be significantly influenced in its efficacy by managing your brand to that circle of opportunities.
So we're talking about speaking to a specific group of people, right?
In shaping what they understand about you. I think one of the great anecdotes that I've used is that there was a young man that was starting out as an agent the better part of a decade ago. Mm-hmm. And he was had a very, very strong brand associated with being an athlete, a professional athlete, and in the community, and it happened to be tennis, and had this great circle of influence of people that knew him and knew of his abilities in tennis. And when we sat down, he says, "Well, I want to parlay this into being a successful realtor." And I said, "Well, what we have to do is we have to change the perception of the people that already know you from being a tennis player that does real estate to being an exceptionally good realtor that happens to be really good at tennis."
So you're talking about like what traits from playing tennis is it going to make and
kind of in
shaping what qualities can you bring from a tennis player to help
shaping
you and
that,
your business and the service of your business,
and figuring out how to shape that purposefully rather than allowing it to just organically form. The reality is people will form opinions about you. They form opinions about Apple and Dell. They form opinions about Ford and Land Rover and Coca-Cola and Pepsi.
Right.
About Publix and Winn-Dixie. They form opinions. And if you don't actively try to shape that formation opinion by controlling your brand's messaging out into that marketplace, that circle of influence, that market that you're marketing to, you're going to basically have them form an opinion of you that you have no control over. And branding really is the art of controlling what opinions get formed on about you.
So there's this common term that's thrown around, at least amongst real estate agents that I work with. It's called farming, right? And it's interesting because sometimes I'll be on Instagram, I'll be on Facebook, and I'll see an ad for a real estate agent, a real estate brokerage, an attorney, whatever it may be, and the ad pops up and their company's in South Carolina, and I'm looking at it in Vero, Sebastian. So when you say farming, would you call that farming?
Yeah, I would highly dissuade that as an effective form of opportunity acquisition. At the end of the day, marketing should be supporting your natural customer acquisition architecture. And for realtors, their natural customer opportunity or acquisition architecture is going to be people that they have a personal relationship with, that either need that service, or those people being motivated to recommend them. Those are your two biggest drivers. Now, it doesn't hurt, obviously, to have somebody hear about you and decide to randomly call you out of the 2,000 realtors that are registered at
That'd
the
be
Board of Real
nice.
Estate.
I'm sure everybody wants that.
But that's not really a realistic market acquisition strategy.
So is that, when you say farming, is that taking like a certain zip code or a certain neighborhood that you have a sphere of influence with? Would you call and targeting that specific audience, is that like a farming technique? Or are you saying that technique is almost ineffective?
No,
and it's more valuable to focus on your sphere that you have within your realm? I
think it's very interesting because you can go both ways with that. I have was very successful realtors that identify neighborhoods which they actively go into, not only keep a top of mind awareness through marketing techniques, and sometimes that's direct mail, sometimes it's addressable, geofenced digital campaigns. But they also make it a point to attend events into the community. Yep. Many times they live in the community. So
the two are kind of intertwined, is what you're saying.
Creating a presence of both personal engagement, right, as well as an awareness of the brand.
Right.
That's where it gets really magical. If you look at any of the really top players that are in the industry, their social calendar is about as busy as the social calendar can get. You're not going to find a successful realtor that says, when I'm not in the office, I'm at home. The reality is their days are spent introducing their personal brand to new people, and their marketing investments spent shaping an understanding of that brand to those same people. And so
that's really how you integrate building your brand with networking ultimately.
They are not mutually independent. They are as interlinked as you can be. And as if your marketing efforts and your brand efforts aren't connected to your social network, to your circle of influence, if you aren't trying to interlock them,
cultivate it
in that way, you will get outcomes, but you will not get extraordinary outcomes. And that's the key. And we're very good at one half of it, which is managing the development of a personal brand and making sure that we're getting that information in front of your target audience. But it also requires the agent to be very good at the other half of it, which is building their circle of influence. And that means introducing themselves to new people as often as they can.
I mean, I always say we're in the relationship business, and I think that's true whether you're in the real estate sector, the legal sector, the marketing sector. I mean, it's the relationship business. So if there were 3 different activities that were brand building that you had a business owner or a real estate agent want to focus on, what would yield the best results in those next 3 months?
Right. So I think that in the next 3 months, I think probably the number one thing is really understand what makes you the better choice. Right? Get down and actually understand that. That's so often not understood by the business themselves. What is the value promise that you're going to bring to the table? And then what are your performance pillars that can support that promise, right? So understand what it is that differentiates you, that makes you the better choice, that makes you competitively superior to everybody else. The second thing is come up with a market acquisition strategy that conveys that value promise,
that message,
in an effective way. Now, to recommend using this marketing channel or that marketing channel, the next marketing channel, that doesn't make any sense because all marketing is a bespoke activity, right? It's unique. But to do it well, you need to understand your value promise. And then using that core understanding, that competitive advantage understanding, and translating that into your market messaging yields the extraordinary results that everybody's looking for.
But the message is only one component. I mean, I think that the real value is in that strategy on how you get that messaging out there, and that's figuring out what channels to use or how to get your message out there.
And you
can have the best message, but if you're not getting it out in an effective way,
that's exactly right. And it's funny is it's actually kind of multifaceted. It is both marketing channels, right?
Yep.
But outbound engagement is a marketing activity. People don't think of it that way, right? They think, well, am I going to go talk to people when I go to a community event? You had mentioned that you have the real estate gatherings,
right,
where realtors are able to intermingle and meet each other and talk to each other and to network and
right,
get to know people. Those are marketing events.
Right.
It is an opportunity for you to introduce your brand to lots of different people so that they form personal connection with your brand. And then if you can match that with some really highly effective messaging through marketing channels where those things are overlaying each other and that they are in concert with each other, every bit of effort that you're doing elevates your brand and begins to give you those disproportionate market results and market share results. It'd be great if it was simple, but as you know,
yep,
it is. It takes a commitment as an organization to say brand matters, marketing matters, and sales matter, and they all need to be on the same sheet of music, because if they're not, they're going to just be, you know,
The best analogy that I've heard is it's like planting an orange tree, and you plant the orange tree as a very small little tree, and you got to water it, you got to trim it, you got to care for it when the storms come in. But after a while, that tree's going to grow. But it takes care, it takes attention, and it takes detail in making that orange tree blossom.
and I couldn't have said it better.
Bo, thank you so much for joining us. How do people contact you if they want to reach out to you?
Yeah, they can visit us on the web. We're at ironsidepress.net. They can also call us directly, 772-569-8484. And, you know, our first engagement with clients always starts with a discovery meeting. We want to learn about what you're doing, and we want to share with what we do and see if there's some value overlap in those two things. And if there is, put the work in to earn your business.
All right. Thank you for tuning in. This is the Lulich Corner, and we appreciate you, and we'll see you next time.